At harvest, we thank and praise God for all his gifts of food and weather, especially his plants which mature in autumn and nourish us all year. Harvest is an opportunity to give thanks and praise to God for all creatures which move in the waters, fly in the sky, and live on the land. Harvest reminds us that all earth creatures are a community created to the praise and glory of God. Nature matures in autumn, even without human help. Wild creatures enjoy the fruits of the season. With human cooperation, however, nature glorifies God through cultivated fields, including grain and grapes, which make bread and wine. Human hands and voices in our own community represent the whole earth community. The transformation of the earth at harvest is a sign of hope, the beginning of the final transformation of all material creation in the resurrection, when God does not make new things, but makes all things new. And so we pray for this district, for all the farmers, for all those involved in production in our district, and for this council this evening. And we join in the Lord's Prayer. Please join in if you know it and you feel able. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. O Almighty and everlasting God, who has graciously given unto us the fruits of the earth in their season, we yield thee humble and hearty thanks for this thy bounty, beseeching thee to give us grace rightly to use the same to thy glory, and the relief of those in need. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, who liveth and reigneth with thee in the unity of the Holy Ghost, ever one God, world without end. Amen.
Please sit. Democratic Services will now start the webcast. While we're waiting for that to be done, may I please remind everyone that if the fire alarm sounds, you should leave by the nearest fire exit, and it may be behind you, and meet at the top of Mill Hill Car Park. I'm waiting for yes, we're okay. We're okay to go. Welcome to this meeting then, everyone. I'm Councillor Johnson, Chairman of the Council for this year, and I'm chairing this evening's meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present to use the microphones when speaking and not to speak too close to the microphone to maintain sound quality of the recording and broadcast. Only 2 microphones, in addition to mine, can be on at the same time. Please make sure your mobile phones are switched to silent and notifications on laptops or tablets are muted. Before we get to the business of the agenda, I'd like to propose a few changes to the order of the agenda. I propose that item 11B becomes 11A to reflect the date of receipt of the motions. I propose that item 13, appointment of the Chief Executive, is moved to become item 8. And item 14, statement of common ground, is moved up to become item 9. Do I have a seconder for that? I need a seconder. Councillor Knowles. Is everyone in agreement? That's the majority. Thank you very much. Our first agenda item is apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Bannister. Did you want to say something?
I didn't want to interrupt you, Madam Chairman. You were about to announce the apologies that you've received. I hope those include Councillors Bateman and Nunn. But can I also advise the meeting that Councillor Worrell is running late. He has given an estimated time of arrival of shortly after 6:45. So hopefully he'll be bundling his way through the doors very soon.
Thank you, Councillor Bannister. In fact, I have got those people down. So it's apologies from Councillor Bateman, Councillor Beadle, Councillor Burrell, Councillor Foreman, and Councillor Nunn. And we wait for Councillor Worrell. Are there any other apologies? Thank you. I hope everybody signed the attendance sheet. And before you leave the meeting, you also need to record your time of departure on the attendance sheet. Right, sorry. Oh, I understand. I should have said if it's before the close of the meeting. So item 2 on our agenda is my announcements. First of all, just a word about my events that I attended from July meeting to today. I won't go in detail because we've got some important stuff coming up, so we want plenty of time for that. 10 events I attended in several areas of the district. One of those at Father Matthew Pitton's Church, St Mary's at Husbands Bosworth, to mark its 150th anniversary. I also attended 2 outside the district. One, the Lord Mayor of Leicester, Councillor Susan Barton's civic service at St Mary de Castro, and the other, an invitation from the Lord Lieutenant of Leicestershire, Mike Kapoor, to attend a Scottish evening in Oakham on behalf of the Armed Forces Charity. I think that's all I want to say there, really. Oh, it's yes, just to say to people in the public gallery, you may or may not know that you are here to observe, and I'm afraid you cannot ask questions. You can ask questions of council via post or email for another council, but I'm afraid we can't have questions from you on the night. Thank you. The third item on the agenda is members' interests. Do we have anyone with interests? Yes, thank you. Councillor Hallam.
Yes, Chair. It's it's on the agenda as 9 now, the Statement of Common Ground. I'd like to register a pecuniary interest in the Homes England on my landlord, and they're heavily involved in the up and coming harbour plan. And for consistency purposes, I'll leave the room at the time of that and not take part in the debate or vote. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other interest? Yes, Councillor King.
Yeah, just to declare that member of Leicestershire County Council, but it's just to make that up, it's on the record, but obviously only here tonight as a district councillor. Thank you.
You. So Mrs. Page.
Standing declaration being a member of the county council.
Okay, and Councillor Baxter.
As I am as well.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I better do that if everyone else is a member of the county council. I'm not sure that it's required any matters tonight, but I'll do it anyway. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We now come to item 4 on the agenda, the minutes of the last meeting on 24th of July. I've identified quite a few typos, which I've actually given a list of to, I won't bore you with those, given a list to Democratic Services. Are there any other alterations or anything anyone wants to comment on? No. So can I have a proposal for these minutes, Councillor Knowles, and a seconder? Oh, thank you, Councillor Asher. Thank you. Okay, a show of hands for these minutes to be carried. Thank you. Okay. Now, as a report from the leader, please. Thank you, Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Chairman. The report is available. It has been circulated. I do apologise for the lateness. It's entirely and the shortness. It's entirely due to a family issue.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yet again, we have a report extremely light on detail, and I feel somewhat like Oliver in wanting more. We are served thin gruel, and as the leader said at the last meeting, we should be expected to be thankful for it. But I am grateful that he has mentioned the meetings that he has had with traders recently about the recent Light and Life festival. The most damaging economic shock to our district since COVID happened under the Coalition's watch. 8 local businesses reported a loss of over £200,000 over the course of the festival. And feedback from the businesses from those 2 meetings hosted by the council have not been positive. And unfortunately, the chair shut us down from asking any questions at the last meeting. So will the leader commit to setting up a special scrutiny task panel to get to the bottom of how this sorry situation occurred? And if the answer is no, perhaps the leader can explain to the businesses present in the public gallery here tonight why the answer is no. And I have to say, it's all very well the leader updating us via this report, but in the interests of openness and transparency, I think the residents and councillors need to see the full coalition agreement in full, and I'd be grateful if the leader could give us a date when that can happen. Thank you.
Councillor Bannister.
Oh, sorry, I was going to answer Councillor Wellborn, but I will take them all together. No.
That's what I was thinking.
I thank the leader for his report. And I'd like to refer the leader back to the last council meeting when I asked a question about would the leader update council as to meetings of the members advisory group. He indicated that he would. Could the leader, in his response to the comments today to his report, indicate whether or not the members advisory group have met since the 24th of July, and if MAG has met, can he give a brief summary to this council as to what was discussed? Thank you.
Are the council, Mrs. Page? Well, yes, Councillor King, go on me.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Just want to say that I fully support the comments and questions of Councillor Wellborn and Councillor Bannister, but also want to add a couple of additional questions. So first of all, in light of the very sad death that was caused recently, not in this district, I must add, but by the bully dog breed attack that happened last week, I think it was, in another part of the country, and someone unfortunately was killed. Can the leader and through the leader, can we receive an update as to what the council is doing to make sure that all public open space, that the dog protection orders that we've got in place are actually being adhered to, that our dog warden service is actually fully discharging its service in protecting residents and communities from dangerous dogs that are out there being exercised in public open spaces. And it's not just district council land. There's a lot of parishes that have public open space, and I am concerned in my own ward that there have been a number of incidents, and yet nothing seems to be being done to stop those things from happening. And I think it is a very present that I raise that. The second point I want to raise, I think whilst we've got a, very minimal report from the leader here, you talk about improving regular business communications between the council and businesses. Well, to my mind, we did actually have a very good regular communication. So I'm interested to know how the leader thinks that communications between the council and businesses across the districts can be improved. And if there is going to be a plan, an action plan for improving that communications, will he bring it to scrutiny so that we can actually scrutinise this plan before it's actioned by the cabinet or by the operational team? And so we can actually feed into that, and also we can get the views of businesses, not just the cliquey few that might be involved. And the third and last point, Chair, I wanted to ask about is about, you mentioned about banking. Now, actually, back in April, I sent an email to the interim chief executive before the election saying that whatever happened after the election, it would be a jolly good idea if we had the district council used its convening powers to convene a meeting of all interested parties. That's the financial services providers, customers, businesses, again, who require banking services, as well as, elected representatives like ourselves, to actually meet and discuss and actually explore opportunities for, future banking services, not just in Market Harbour Town, but across the district. There are many larger communities that do not have direct banking services. And I think it's very important in the light of the developments that have happened in the last few months that we should do more about that. And I'm just wondering if he will make a commitment to convene such a meeting as he hasn't done so far. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mrs Page.
Thank you, Chairman. Very much appreciated. I have been a county councillor for over 20 years in Lutterworth, and in all that time, I have been trying to secure the best health services for my residents in the area. In fact, I have been on all of the recent NHS panels as well. Now, the leader said he had the pleasure in meeting the health campaigners in Lutterworth, and I would like to know if he can give us a little bit more information around that and with whom he met, because we very much would like the support in Lutterworth of this county council, of this district council.
Any other questions? Before the leader gives you his answers, I would just like to say to Councillor Wellband that I think you need a little bit of bedtime reading with the Constitution, because in there you will find it says that excuse me, I'm speaking. It says that the chairman can stop a member speaking at any time. And in fact, you were not on the subject, that you were on the subject that had already been disallowed. Thank you. Councillor Noel.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm very happy to respond. I bet Councillor Wellband's been waiting all week to try and practice that speech. The bottom line is my opening comment is we have had meetings with the traders, and I was very grateful to the traders. The first one, it was very, very few attended. I was accused of saying there'd been quite a number attended, but there wasn't. And I didn't make that statement. I've checked with the press and not been able to come up with the details on it. The basic bottom line is, as far as I'm concerned, there are problems. I'm partially answering Councillor King's comments here. There are problems with communication. I've had that from not just within these meetings, but also with businesses when I've gone to chat to them. And they've told me that some of them have got not a clue what HART is, Harbour Against Retail Theft. Didn't know what it was. Others have been in it and dropped out. Others said it's not worthwhile, it doesn't work. Others say we don't hear from the council. So one of the things that we want to try and do is to look exactly what the issues are and what we can or might be able to do to sort of help and assist with that. Now, as it stands, Chairman, at the moment, it's very much in the hands of the officers. The officers are looking at that, and I'm very grateful to them for the help that they gave to me. I will say one other thing to Councillor Wellband. I don't think it's particularly enamouring when he knew that the meeting which took place was a meeting between the traders and the leader, And he chose to do something that night that I never did once. And I'm going to say this, Councillor Wellband, I never did once while Councillor King was leader of this authority. I never tried to walk
Point of
into a
order,
meeting
sorry,
uninvited.
point of order.
And the bottom line is, Madam Chairman, that Councillor King,
Sorry, what Councillor Knowles is talking about, I attended on behalf of my employer.
and he wasn't invited, did he?
And an email was sent earlier on in the day to say that I was coming on behalf of my employer. I haven't finished yet. To say that I was coming. The meeting started at 5 o'clock. I got a notice that I couldn't come at 3 minutes to 5. It's a disgrace.
Madam Chairman, I do feel I need to answer this.
I'm sorry to interrupt my leader. I just want to point out that that wasn't a procedural motion. It doesn't fall within the remit of a point of order. I believe my point of order is, thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, I really think that this behaviour is acceptable. You know, we're just turning into some sort of rabble when one person's butting in. You know, you're trying to make your point over me. So we'll carry on, but no more behaviour like Councillor Knowles.
thank you, Chairman. Just to finish the point I was making, the meeting was with the leader of this council. The Member of Parliament was not invited, and therefore why there was a sudden decision to say, sorry, I'm not turning up, I have no idea. And, you know, it's as simple as that. Well,
Excuse me, through the chair.
you know, Madam Chairman, it just amazes me why people don't show the respect for the chair and stand up if they want to say something. But anyway, we'll move on from that. Just to go back onto the notes that I have here. Councillor King, I think you made a very good point about these dog breeds. They are deeply concerning. I really do not know the answer about the public open spaces. I'm not going to try and guess at it, that would be wrong. I'm going to ask our officers if they would make sure that we can get back to Councillor King and to all councillors with an update on that. I think that's highly appropriate. I do thank you for that question. Improving the communications, hopefully I've answered that, because that's the feedback we're getting from members of the trading fraternity, and if we can help and assist, then we should. I have to say, I think it's a point worth making, that a number of these traders, Chairman, have been actually paying out, I think, £30 a month for this hard scheme. And as I say, it's something we need to look at, and we will look at, and I'm very grateful to our officers who are looking into this. As far as the banking is concerned, we have had our discussion with the banking hub, the leader and myself. That's now going to move to the next phase. It's slowly being progressed, and the intention is to very much widen it out and to involve all councillors and to widen it out to other members of the community. That's certainly something we're going to do. Certainly something we're going to look at, but we only managed a couple of weeks ago to fit in the last meetings with the banking hub. About the improving communications, Councillor King, just doubling back on that, because I wrote the note 2 or 3 times down here. Again, that will be reported back to all members. It's something that impacts not just on Harbour, it's right across the district, and it is something that we need to look at and look at in detail. As far as Councillor Page is concerned, and I will come back to you, Councillor Bannister, I met the Mary Guppy group and had a very detailed discussion with them. They were very helpful to me, explaining lots of things that they've been campaigning on. And I'm very keen to do anything I can to help in Lutterworth with the health situation. And I'm more than happy to have a chat with you after the council meeting on that to see what more I can do. And I know that you've been very active for 20 years on that, so I'm very happy to do that. Just going back now to Councillor Bannister. You asked about the MAG. The answer to your question is yes, it has met. Councillor Galton has been elected Vice Chairman of the MAG, and one of the things that he's working on behalf of this council is to make sure that we move away from the situation that we've endured for the last goodness how long, that the minutes have been unavailable. We couldn't be told what was going on, and we're trying to get things out of the secrecy drawer and get them available to all members so we can all see exactly what's happening. Because as we know, and I'm sure that former leader of the council will actually agree with me, he was attending those meetings, but his hands were tied because he couldn't come back and tell us what was going on. because the minutes were not publishable and they weren't being shared with anybody. So obviously that's something we want to move forward on, and I'm sure Councillor Galton's going to make a good good fist of getting that done for us. So I think that's all the answers, Chairman.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item 6. Item 6 on the agenda is to answer written questions from the public and receive public petitions. No petitions have been received. One question, which is in your supplementary papers, you find it there, is the answer of which has been provided in the supplementary agenda at page 1. I now invite Mr. Campbell Early to the lectern to ask his question and any supplementary questions.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. My name's David Campbell-Kelly, a resident for more than 30 years of Willoughby Waterleys, and I'm chair of our local residents association. And this question is submitted on behalf of our members, who are the vast majority of the residents of our village. You will see from the minutes of the scrutiny panel of the 13th of October last year that I asked a question remotely on this subject. A brief summary of my question was included in the minutes, and I will refer later to the officer comments contained in those minutes. We've been monitoring the progression of strategic planning in the county since the approval of the Strategic Growth Plan, and we formed our association in 2018 as a result. In particular, we are concerned that unsustainable development is being progressed, and we have positively engaged in all relevant consultations. We have made substantive and credible suggestions for an alternative solution to the problem of future strategic development in the county. Despite frequent and even recent requests, we have never received any feedback about why this alternative strategy has been dismissed, or that it has even been considered by officers or any authority in the county. We've got two major concerns over the 2022 Statement of Common Ground before you tonight. The first relates to the current position of the Leicester City Local Plan. The Regulation 19 consultation took place earlier this year, and I know the leader recently wrote to central government for clarification on whether the duty to cooperate still applies, and I have seen the correspondence that has been received recently, and I agree with the responses there. The duty to cooperate still exists. The two main reasons we have concerns over the Leicester Plan are that the duty to cooperate has not been satisfied by Leicester. It's important to note at the time of the Leicester City Local Plan consultation earlier this year, the evidence-based document issued by the city supporting the duty to cooperate stated that all councils, including Harborough, had already approved the 2022 statement, i.e. you're doing tonight what they said you did by last December. Following the closure of that consultation, it appears that that document has been amended by the city, but it does still state that all authorities have approved the statement before you. And that is contained in the summary of cooperation on their website. This shows a clear breach of the duty to cooperate by Leicester City themselves. You should understand that the City Council assumed 9 months ago that you would be taking the allocated additional housing contained in the Statement of Common Ground by 2036. The second concern we have over the city plan revolves the city's lack of attempt to comply with its own obligations to provide for its own housing needs. In 2020, the standard method of calculating housing need was amended so that the 20 largest cities, which included Leicester, would have to increase their housing numbers by 35%. And those cities were expected to meet those needs themselves. Following this change in policy, the city's stated unmet need increased from around 17,800 to 18,700. And that increase of just under 11,000 is about 36% of the city's housing need for 2020 to 2036. You should appreciate that this emphatically demonstrates that no attempt has been made by the city to comply with its own obligations to meet that further need itself, again breaching the duty to cooperate. We believe that the proposed planning policy changes have prompted the city to rush out a local plan because we believe they will be under greater pressure with the new planning rules when they come into force. Our second concern is the evidence upon which the statement tonight is based. The 2022 statement refers to the previous statement of common ground, which as a council you approved on the 21st of June 2021. The 2021 statement makes it absolutely clear that 4 elements of work were necessary and required to inform the apportionment of unmet need from Leicester to the county's districts and boroughs. Indeed, Hinckley and Bosworth Council have maintained this position throughout, and it is noted in the 2022 statement. 2 of those 4 reports are still outstanding: the Strategic Growth Options and Constraints Mapping Report and the Strategic Transport Assessment. The officer's report before you today is striking in that it does not refer to these 2 reports, and which were deemed essential at the time of your approval of the 2021 statement. Nor, as we have noted recently, is it noted by the independent planning advice that you've recently received. You should consider how is it possible to strategically allocate unmet need before you've fully considered all of the options and before you've assessed the strategic transport requirements. As noted in the October minutes, officers stated that the outstanding reports only affected later periods. This can't be right. Given the considerable time needed for strategic sites to come forward, consideration is already being given to strategic locations for large-scale and, in our views, unsustainable developments. For instance, consideration by Blaby of Western Pastures Garden Village. Prejudgment has already begun on major strategic development without the strategic transport assessment and without all the options being considered. The reports aren't issued, let alone considered. The minutes from last October suggest that 123 units per annum allocation is a good result. That share of unmet need covers the years 2020 to 2036. 5 years will have elapsed before any effect is felt. In reality, an adjusted annual requirement of around 175 units per annum will be required for the period 2026 to 2036, which is an additional third of Harbour's annual requirement of 534 units. This is significant and can hardly be described as a good deal. The statement before you today states that all reports will inform the strategic evidence for local plans. Plainly, as they're not all available yet, they have not informed the Leicester City local plan, which is driving the unmet need requirement allocated in the statement. According to the 2021 statement, all of the 4 required reports were expected to have been completed by early 2022. And even in the current statement, they were expected by the end of last year. The transport assessment and mapping options reports are still not issued, heading towards 2 years later than originally expected. Surely they must be available soon. You approved the 2021 statement on the basis of 4 pieces of work being prepared to inform the unmet needs allocation. Why now are you being asked to change this position? How can it be appropriate? How can it be an appropriate allocation without consideration of these 2 absolutely fundamental outstanding pieces of evidence? We acknowledge that Harbour has a duty to cooperate. That does not preclude the need to ensure that any statement is based on sound and complete evidence. We therefore ask that members consider the points we've raised here tonight and ask you to defer the decision to approve the 2022 statement, given the presumed immediate publication of the unfinished reports. Wait for their issue and then consider their impact on the allocations of the unmet housing need. Deferral should also be considered until the Leicester City local plan is further progressed in determining the actual level of unmet need following its planning inquiry. There is nothing in section 110 of the Localism Act, which covers the duty to cooperate, to say that a deferral to sign as opposed to a refusal to sign breaches the authority's duty to cooperate obligation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Kelly. You have already received an answer. I wonder if you wanted to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do. There is a theme running through the information and answers from officers and the planning advisor, and that is to avoid any comment on the two outstanding reports as if they are somehow irrelevant. They were not irrelevant in 2021 when you as a council approved the original statement. Officers comment that the two reports do not affect the near term and even suggest they will have little bearing on the new local plan, expected to be submitted by June 25. In my view, a highly ambitious timetable and probably not achievable. Members should also be aware that many authorities have slowed down or even abolished working on their local plans whilst they await the new planning guidelines. In the scrutiny panel minutes from last October, officers commented that the strategic transport assessment and the mapping options report cover the period 2031 to 2051. The new local plan, I assume, will run to around 2040. By officers' own admission, there will need to be at least 9 years of the new plan to be informed by the two outstanding reports. You cannot prepare a local plan without the two strategic reports, nor can you meaningfully approve this statement of common ground without them either. I'm not a cynical person, but I am increasingly concerned that the two draft reports, which are already in circulation and certainly seen by officers in other authorities, so I assume they have in Harborough, are not issued because they do not currently support the strategic location of development to the south and east of Leicester, as envisaged by the Strategic Growth Plan. As a result, they are being suppressed or amended. My supplemental question is, can officers confirm my cynicism is unjustified?
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. We'll get a written response to the officers. You will be receiving a written response. Okay. You. Moving on to item 7. Members can ask questions on the content of this report, which is the report from Cabinet. There are some questions that I will not allow that do not relate to the report or a decision taken by Cabinet since the last meeting of Council. So I want you to be aware that I will not take questions on the corporate plan 20. Oh yes, sorry. I will take questions on the corporate plan 23-24. The 23-24 Q1 performance report, finance outturn and corporate, bad debt write-offs, Cabinet subcommittee for grants, Leicester and Leicestershire statement of common ground for housing and employment land needs, community safety plan 23-26, mechanical and electrical contract award. Okay, I will not allow questions that are outside that area. Okay, now do we have anyone who wants to ask questions? No? Yes, Councillor Hannam?
I'd just really like to comment on the fact that obviously in the papers about performance, the first quarter performance, financial performance, it was interesting to see that our investments are doing extremely well. So congratulations to the previous administration for getting our 1541 officer to invest in those said things. And it's pleasing to see that we've managed to put, I think it's 300,000 into reserves. So the reserves are even higher than what I thought when I sent my question to the full council. So that makes me believe that we're in an even better financial situation than I thought before. So thank you for those that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor King. Oh, Councillor Graves, sorry, I missed you. You were first.
Oh, thank you. That's a very interesting comment by Councillor Hallam, trying to claim praise for the previous administration due to interest rates going up. But I wonder if this chamber would be mindful that actually that comment ought to go for a member of your party by the name of Liz Truss, and possibly the ex-chancellor by the name of Kwasi Kwarteng. Their actions have rocketed interest rates up in this country to the great harm of many people and to the resulting increase in interest receipts by Harper District Council. Investments are investments, bank balances are bank balances, but I think you've forgotten about what happened with Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng. Thank you.
Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask, in the Cabinet report, which I did read, and sorry I wasn't able to get to the meeting, but what I got a query about was it talks about the key activity indicators being altered, but it didn't actually explain what the alterations were. And I was just wondering, perhaps just to help inform the situation, if some additional information could be provided to members as to what the changes were that had been made from whatever the original ones were, because I say there was no tracking available of the changes. And I think that would help inform the situation for all. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chairman. On page 15, there's an item under that debt write-off. And it says that over £500,000 are being written off. And as times are already very bad for my residents, for all residents, for us all, I wonder, will this have a considerable impact, God, what's up with my teeth today? Impact onto the council tax and on our residents, or indeed onto any of the council services? With £500,000, will we be looking at some service cutbacks?
Anyone? Councillor Graves again. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Page. As you probably know from looking at the relevant paperwork, over 90% of that amount is due to Jules Limited going into administration, which none of us in this room could have done or can now do anything about. I'm looking at the 151 officer. I believe that amount of money is gross before all the preceptors have had their bits and pieces. So let's estimate we are 8 to 10% receipt of that money. Therefore, we're 8 to 10% receipt of that write-off. So we're a much smaller amount, but the whole amount has to be declared because of the rules around the collection fund. Thank you.
If I may, does that mean only 10% of that is actually going to be a write-off on that? Will have an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So as it's business rates, the council gets 40% share of that, and that is our direct impact. But do not forget we have a bad debts provision, which is set aside continuously for that, and will in due course be reimbursed to meet that obligation. Okay.
If there's no more questions, I invite Councillor Knowles to respond. Thank you.
Well, I think the question will be at the time. I have absolutely no problems in giving the clarification on that. No issues whatsoever. And with that, Chairman, I'm happy to move these minutes as they are laid out with dividends.
So we move on now to item 9. item 8, appointment of the chief executive. And I invite the leader of council to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, first of all, I would like to pay tribute to Councillor Bateman and to Councillor Williams because they joined me on the panel for the interviews. I'd also like to thank our officers for their support on this. We were blessed with an extremely strong set of candidates. We had 19 people come forward for this post, 10 of which made it to the shortlist. And the bar was so high that they eventually managed to whittle it down to 4 on the interview list. And I have to say, we were very impressed with all that we met. And I think it was a great tribute to the council that, first of all, the number that applied, but secondly, the quality of the people that applied. The recommendation from the panel is before you. The person who has been listed down for this post, many of you have met them. They are very driven, very keen to get on board at Harbour District and to do an outstanding job for us in the future. I've not met anyone who met them yet who's not been impressed with the discussions they've had with them. I don't think it's something that we have to labour at any great length, Chairman. All I will say is that I'm very happy to formally move the formal appointment, and in doing so, invite other members or ask you to seek a seconder.
Can we have a seconder for this? Councillor Woody-Wist.
I second this. Thank you very much.
Surely. Anyone want to comment? Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. So there's 2 things I want to say. So first of all, I'd like to say thanks to the panel for getting to grips with this and choosing someone. I know from experience it's not a very easy task and it's quite time consuming. But I'd also like to thank Liz and Clive for being the interim chief and interim deputy chief for a lot longer than they thought they would be and a lot longer than I thought they would be when I was the leader. So I'd like to thank them on my bit for me as a previous leader, but I'm sure others may like to thank them also. And I actually know John Richardson from some dealings that we've had in the past with Blaydon District Council, so I'm quite happy to support his nomination to be chief. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Rickman.
Thank you, Chair. I had dealings with John Richardson as well when I was portfolio holder. He is quite an impressive guy, very positive, very forthcoming and very interactive with other people. So I have every confidence that he will actually go forward and take us forward with him.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Shall we have a show of hands then? Oh, Councillor Knowles, sorry.
Well, Chairman, just before you do take the vote, Councillor King, I was going to leave it till after, but you got in there, so I'll join him in saying it. You know, we do owe a debt of gratitude to the officers that have taken on the mantle of interim chief executive, interim deputy chief executives. And as Councillor King said, we didn't think it was going to last this long, but it did. And we all owe a great debt of gratitude to our officers for the job that they've done and the task that they've taken on to keep the council moving forward. So with that, Chairman, I'm happy to put it to the vote.
Thank you. Seated that I am next to the chief executive, I would echo your thanks. Okay, shall we have a show of hands then? That's unanimous, I think. Yes, thank you very much. On to item 9, our new night, item 9, the statement of common ground. This was the item that was item 14. The relevant document can be found at page 43 of the agenda, and additional documents, as you must know by now for this report, in the supplementary agenda, starting at page 18, will have found those. I invite the leader to introduce this report.
As we meet tonight to look at the statement of common ground, I think it worthwhile to give a little background that would dispel once and for all that this framework, a plan, numbers were put together since the coalition won the administration of Harbour District Council. Nothing could be further from the truth. Our officers confirmed that the numbers and distribution of numbers were formulated by what they describe as a consultant-led evidence-based study. The 9 party councils jointly commissioned Iceni Projects Limited to prepare evidence-based information. The detail is set out on pages 419 to 445 in the agenda pack. So as we stand tonight, 7 out of the 9 partner councils have approved the statement of common ground based upon the housing numbers in this document. Tonight we are the 8th council to consider this. As yet, no decision has been made. The number of houses, 123 extra, having been laid down long before the election. Members have over recent weeks had briefings from our officers, the much valued professional planners in this organisation. Consultants have briefed members and supported the officers' arguments, and evidence supporting that we must sign. Furthermore, the consultants have agreed that the minister's letter unquestionably confirms that the duty to cooperate still exists and must be taken into our considerations. It has not, as yet, been scrapped, and when it is, will be replaced with something thought or speculated to be similar. We have met with the city, questioned the city about their brownfield sites, etc. Their responses to questions we asked have, with their permission, been shared with all our councillors. We've also spoken with some of those who have already signed and the one other authority which has yet to sign. We have challenged the officers, the planning professionals, to prove their case. Their response, a 600-page plus report. As I already stated, letters of support from consultants for the case that officers are making. I would have no problem in asking our office to even seek independent legal counsel's advice as to the Harbour District Council obligations. So where do we go from here? Well, the answer is simple, and it's proof positive that this administration is evidencing everything. I move a notice without motion under Rule 13 that we defer the decision and debate to full council meeting of the November the 6th. The reason, our 3 MPs have been sharing their claims that we don't need to sign, suggesting, as I would read it, no negatives on the local plan if we refrain from signing, which if extended to a logical conclusion, would, I suggest, then portray no possibility for an indefensible local plan and developers having a free-for-all. In moving this deferral, I include a challenge to our 3 members of Parliament to get out from behind the computer keyboard, come here to Market Harbour to this chamber, and the 3 to meet, discuss and debate the whole evidence base with me as leader of this authority and Councillor Simon Gorton as the Cabinet lead. Please try to prove the officer's case wrong. Question the officer's evidence. Please test and try to prove the consultant's support to be wrong. Then importantly, and I mean this quite sincerely, please help us to understand the argument and the claims you are making. This is a vital decision for the whole of the district. I want to add one final thing. Our Chief Executive will provide all dates available to the MPs for the meeting here in Harbour to meet the revised decision date of November the 6th, 2023, and that our meeting with the 3 MPs is open to councillors and the public to come along, observe and hear everything at first hand. I formally move that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Knowles. We need a seconder, Councillor Goldman.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. So I'm happy to second this proposal of this motion that Councillor Knowles has moved. Look, the situation we're in is not of our making. The council, I'll say that to all members. The government is responsible for the planning system that we have to operate and we have to work with. And I've been quite surprised at some of the statements made by people who ought to know better and ought to understand the planning system that Parliament has passed, and also what our local plan says. So particularly around the triggers for when we actually need to review that plan, very clearly set out. I know that because I was one of 3 councillors that spent 2 weeks in the examination in public in 2019 and heard that debate around what would trigger our local plan review. So, Madam Chairman, unfortunately, the decision facing the District Council on Leicester City's housing numbers is not as simple as has been portrayed in recent letters from MPs. Crucially, it fails to mention the role of government planning policy and the statutory guidance issued to councils. We, Harbour District Council, are between a rock and a hard place, but without an up-to-date local plan which allocates sufficient sites for housing, this district is in danger of speculative development applications all over the district, which we would not be able to resist. And any members that have been here for a number of years will remember, and I'd say look particularly to Councillor King, will remember when we lost that 5-year supply and it was just about a free for a number of years. The planning committee had its hands tied behind its back. I, for one, and I suggest that all members of this council do not wish to return to that. And therefore, we have to take some very tough and difficult decisions. But so be it. If the MPs think that we don't have to take this, then they need to come here and address us and the officers and explain to us why it is not necessary that we sign the statement to common ground. Because I have to say, on all the evidence that I've received, whether it be through the MAG, whether it be through our officers, whether it be the consultant that came on the Teams meeting the other night and explained to all of us that were present, and if you haven't watched that, go back and watch it, why we have to do this. So be it. If the MPs still disagree, they come here and explain to us why that is the case. So I'm quite happy, Madam Chairman, that we go through this deferment just over a month. Take that extra bit of time. We've always said if new evidence emerges, we will look at it before we take a decision. So I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Graves, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. In accordance with the Constitution Rules 13 and 14, which is a little interesting duplication, I propose a motion without notice to move to an immediate vote on the motion I've just heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. This is a closure motion, yes. And once a seconder, Councillor Wood, you wish to use second?
Thank you, Chairman. I will second this. Thank you.
So now we go to the vote on this. On the closure of this item. Okay. So all those in favour? Just a minute. Okay, thanks.
From the query, Chair, what are we voting for? Well, we're voting for the closure or the
Closure.
closure.
You voted for closure. Would you like me to have that vote again? Okay, sorry. Let me read it out to you. Council has a without notice closure motion proposing that the debate on this matter be adjourned to a future meeting of council. So all those in favour? And against? And abstentions? Thank you. The motion is carried. So the next item of business, yes, where are we now? Wait a minute. Thank you. My apologies for not reading out what the motion was about. Okay, on to item 10, 5 members have submitted questions, and these are set out at pages 19 to 22 of the agenda pack. Written responses have been provided to all questions within the supplemental agenda, starting at page 6 and published on the council's website. The member asking the question may ask one supplementary question. The question must arise directly out of the original question or reply. The questioner and responder may speak for no longer than 5 minutes without my consent, and I will provide a warning at 4 minutes. Is there anyone who wants to ask a supplementary question? Councillor Page?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe it has been my fault because I talk and write too much, because my original question was somewhat long, and therefore I vowed to the monitoring officer to amend it. And I think somehow in my question, the sentiment got lost. I think the sentiment of my question was very much that I wanted the support from this council in relation to what we are doing in Lutterworth to secure health provision. Now, it isn't just simply about the Mary Guppy group constantly going on about keeping beds. It is a far wider picture that's been ongoing for over 20 years. We need extra provision, we need more clinics, we need all sorts of things. We've got Lutterworth East coming, and it's not just keeping a few beds for a few people who are coming from all over the world. Now, the whole issue, and as I said before that, I'm on all the bodies, so I'm fully well aware of it. And I won't take issue with you, Councillor Knowles, for writing me this stroppy reply. I will skate over this. Now, within Lutterworth, we know that we have got a very good transport provision through the volunteer transport group as well. And they receive considerable funding from this council. So all of this is a big puzzle. We need Lutterworth the support of this council, not only to put forward the weight of the council behind us as Councillor Gare, myself, and people who are working continuously to get additional provision from the NHS when they're trying to put down as well on their finances. We also need the security of transport provision to ensure that this council will continue to support the Lutterworth transport unity. So therefore, you see, that was it. So, okay, I'm finished. My supplementary question is, it says, I understand from officers of the council that we've been regularly invited to attend stakeholders meetings. Invited does not mean that they have attended. Could I have a list of when officers attended? And could I also ask what this council can do to ensure to put their weight behind us? Thank you.
Councillor Mrs. Page, I think it should have been just one question.
Okay. My question is, could you assure me when officers have attended?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Answer. Councillor Knowles.
Right, thank you, Councillor Page. Yes, I'm sure we can get that information to you as a supplementary question. And I'm not going to answer your second question, other to say I agree with you. Let's see what we can do to help you.
Councillor King. Yes, and I'll come to you next, Councillor Hallam. You weren't here when I was writing the list. Okay. Okay, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank Councillor Knowles for his answer. I have to say, I'm not entirely surprised by it. It's a bit disappointing, to be honest. And there is a word missing that he doesn't mention, which is about taxpayers. But what I wanted to ask as a supplementary question is if at some point in the future, the council is minded, or he or the new incoming chief is minded, that there are some changes, such as this 4-day week business that is South Cambridgeshire is pursuing at the moment, was to be considered in the future. Would it be brought to the council to make a decision on that, to amend the terms and conditions of our employees, and not just be delegated decision to the chief? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor
In
Knowles.
my immediate reaction to that is I don't think it should be a delegated decision. I think it should be a decision of council because it materially affects the running of the council, and I would certainly be looking for that to be a decision of council.
Councillor Bannister.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I wish to thank Councillor Woodowis for the answer to my question on the recycling bins across the district, noting that the answer is there is just one available to shoppers and residents as they go about their business, specifically in Market Harborough. My supplementary question is this. Would Councillor Woodowis agree that the time is now right that provision is made in next year's budget for additional recycling bins to be made available for shoppers and residents as they go about their business in the towns and the larger villages across the district? And we just don't see one in Market Harborough.
Councillor Woodowis.
Sorry about the delay. Thank you, Councillor Bannister, for the supplementary question. I will revert back to you in writing if that's okay.
Thank you. Councillor Hallam, thanks for your patience.
Thank you very much. Apologies, as I say, I was
All right.
in the room outside and I think I got forgotten about, but there you go. And you were very quick deliberating on the statements going around. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Knowles for his response, and I'm glad you agree with the one fine officer and me that the council is not in a financial mess at the moment. And Councillor Sarfas was referring to the delay in redevelopment of the Roman Way. Last administration authorised that, and it should have been built with immediate effect, but building issues and large increases in the costs of the project was caused by the Ukraine war and building materials going up by 50%. More expensive labour, costs rocketed, and anything anybody could have done about that just wasn't really. With regards to the Simonton building, the last administration had commission work to be carried out to more efficient use of it. So I'm glad that that is continuing, and I thank you for saying that. So we did start it, and obviously the election got in the way. So therefore, I'm glad that it's continued. We have to be mindful of the fact we have a very big building which is half empty. So I'm glad that the new administration is looking into that. With that, I just say thank you for your response, and it's a shame that we didn't have a retraction on my comment. Thank you.
Councillor Bannister. No questions. No.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I'm not aware that the retraction was necessary on the night. Clarification has been given, and I can say that I'm very proud of the work that the Cabinet and this administration are doing in actually moving things forward with a lot of these projects. We're looking in detail at quite a number of projects. I'm very grateful for the support of the officers, and in due course that will be coming forward to a council for you all to see and get involved in. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Wellband, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Woodowis, for explaining why you weren't at recent police and crime panel meetings, which are important meetings to attend on behalf of our residents. My question is this: in a recent Green Party leaflet in your ward, you said that you will work hard to demonstrate the trust that the voters have placed in you, and you're concentrating on getting to know how the council works. And I would ask, how do you plan to do that when you don't turn up to many meetings or training sessions, and will you attend those training sessions that you've missed? Thank you.
Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, councillor Wellbound. I will revert back to you in writing. I have attended many meetings and I will document them for you, for your pleasure and for the training as well. Okay, thank you.
We'll move on to item 11 then now, which was item 9. And that's reports from the council's committees. And this is for noting. Rule 11 of the council procedure rules entitles members to ask questions of the chairman on a report from their committee. The documents can be found pages 23 to 26 of the main agenda pack. Do I have a proposer? Do I have a proposer? Do we need a proposer, Graves? Councillor Graves, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Knowles. If you wish to ask a question about anything in the report, please raise your hand. One, okay, fine. Thank you. We'll move on to item 12 then. Item 12, report on the council's joint arrangements, again for noting. However, rule 11 entitles members to ask questions still. The documents on pages, as I've said before, 23 and 26. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Knowles. And the seconder? Councillor Graves. Anyone want to ask a question? No. Okay. On to item 13. 2 valid motions have been received in accordance with the council procedure rule 12. They're listed at pages 35 and 38 of your main agenda pack. I've already obtained your consent to the order they are considered being amended to reflect the date of receipt of motions. They were actually put down in the wrong order. They are amended to reflect that. Council Procedure Rule 12 restricts time for considering motions to 30 minutes in total, unless council agrees to extend the time. Each member wishing to speak has a maximum of 5 minutes and can speak only once on the substantive motion. Does council wish at this point to extend the time for debating these motions? No, that's fine. The first motion is proposed by Councillor James and the wording can be found 37 and 38. Do we have a seconder for this? Oh, I need Councillor James first. Apologies, Councillor James. Would you?
Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, members, when I first prepared this information was building up about the middle of August. I didn't really expect that this motion would become so important and so newsworthy because things have moved on. But really, this is a motion seeking honesty and transparency from the water companies. There have been difficulties with this. We are learning more and more as the days goes on what contamination there is in the rivers, particularly in England. We need to be able to deal with this. We need to know the truth, the absolute truth. Now, there's got to be a background to this, and it's not difficult to look at some of this background and see how this might have come about and what we need to do about it. The first thing is Ofwat. Ofwat are the regulating body. And if we look at that, the main function as Ofwat is the economic regulation of the water and sewage industry, the economic regulation. And with all the bad publicity that's gone on, I say we really need to better understand this. So we've got Ofwat involved here, managing the whole business. We've got the government, of course, sitting above that. And I didn't want to use the word Conservative government, because, you know, the Conservatives were all for Great Britain and everything, but we have a government at the moment who have got the hands off and not managing so many things. But I'm not going to call them a Conservative government. Now, what's gone wrong with the water industry? Because they've got a captive market, haven't they? They don't need to do a lot of marketing and things like that. They've had income, a massive income, with the increased building programs we've been talking about and the increase in the population. So why haven't we improved the structure? Why haven't we improved the infrastructure to deal with this? Because this motion is all linked to the infrastructure that should have been put in place. Well, I'll tell you why we haven't got the infrastructure. Over the last 10 years, £113.4 billion has been paid out to shareholders across the world. And even there's some water companies who've even borrowed to pay to their shareholders. And the industry as a total at the moment is £60 billion in debt. So it's not going to be easy to raise the money that's required to improve the infrastructure, to get us out of this pollution situation we're in. There's not the money to invest. And already one or two water companies say, well, you know, if we've got to do more investment, then the water bills will go up and the water and sewage bills. Looking into the background of this, the water companies have assets, don't they? They have land, they have equipment, they have assets. And assets, you can sell assets, they're valuable. And these water companies have basically sold these assets on and on and on across the world. And our water and sewage system is now owned by foreign governments, by super rich banks in the Middle East, by hedge funds and business in tax havens. Thames Water is an example who have got the biggest problem around them. They are owned in part by China, the UAE and Australia. There are 17 countries who have shares in our water company.
1 minute, Councillor James.
And we are the only country.
1 minute.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We're the only country in the world that, apart from Chile, that doesn't own our water. Now, this needs to be sorted out because it's a massive problem. It's draining the UK of finances. We haven't got the infrastructure. So I think that this motion, I really do hope that we can all support this motion and we send a very strong signal to the Prime Minister to get a grip of this. It's a very serious situation. We've got beaches that we can't swim in all over. I was looking at some last night in Devon, beaches I know. Blackpool, you can't swim within 14 miles of the beach. This is a horrendous problem. It needs the absolute urgency to be sorted out. And this motion really is seeking the truth, the amount of pollution we have got in our rivers. And I do hope we can all support it and we all work together to get this sorted out quickly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seconding, Councillor Knight and Councillor Knowles to speak.
Yeah, Chair, I just want to say a few
Thanks.
I thought the mic on my voice was going to go
Councillor
first.
Knowles, I think I should allow Councillor Knight just the rush.
Well, absolutely, Chairman.
It's my mistake. Councillor Knight.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I do second this motion. I believe that water companies should be held more accountable for their actions. Rivers are the lifeblood of our country, and I think it's a national disgrace that we need to protect our water companies, protect, us from our water companies and those rivers. So I think asking for full disclosure is only right in the hope that government will bring water companies to account and at the very least operate within the law. And please support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Knowles, apologies.
It's okay, Chairman. I just wanted to make a very quick point with this. I mean, the bottom line is very simple. This is all about the fact that we're only getting partial information. They're very happy to tell us that these outlets are being opened for 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 times a week, 4 times a day, or whatever it is. But we're not seeing the tonnages, and that's the important information. Because if they're only open for a short time, you're talking about 10 kilos That's one thing. But if you're talking about 10 tonnes, that's something very different. And this motion is seeking to have full disclosure. And I think that's the important aspect of this, Chairman. And I hope people will support it.
Thank you. Councillor King?
Yeah, Chairman, I've just listened very carefully to that and read the motion. I didn't realise Harbour District Council ran the water industry of the UK. But that aside, I do know this is part of a national Lib Dem campaign as well. So well done. But what would be really relevant is if this was about the harbour districts, which we are responsible for. And what we do know in Harbour District, there has been significant investment, multi-million pounds investment in sewage and water improvement works. As I hope most colleagues will know, there was a massive extension of the, for example, Market Harbour sewage works over the last few years. Was significant upgrading of water supply pipes. There was a few years ago in the square a very significant piece of infrastructure was dug up and put into the ground to prevent flooding in the town centre in Market Harbour. I could go on, I'm not going to, you'd be glad to know. But I think I'm not going to support this motion because I don't think it's targeted enough. I think it's just let's just wham everything. I don't think it's I think it's just a bit of a politicalisation. I don't think it's really aimed at the Harbour District. If it was, we'd be talking much more specifically about harbour issues. Thank you, Chair.
Any more? Does anyone else want to speak? No? Okay. Well, right. Councillor Woodywith, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The UK once had the unfortunate title of being the dirty man of Europe. And after decades of membership with the EU, we have healthy, clean rivers with salmon returning to the Thames, blue ribbon beaches. And it seems this government is determined to retain or regain this title again. To me, this situation demonstrates the complete failure of privatisation with our energy, railway and water infrastructure all at the point of failure after decades of underfunding. These industries need funding, and that funding stretches out for decades, and they need a surety of funding as well in order to deliver the infrastructure we need for a 21st century. And it's apparent that the PLC model cannot provide this. As per usual, in our highly prescribed world of planning, our council finds it's given with its duty to connect, it has little power to intervene in. So I commend the motion that has been moved by coalition colleagues. I would also ask that the council goes a bit further than the text of this motion. I would ask that we implement a gateway in the planning system for the sewage infrastructure to be reviewed, and that we ask the water companies to come and demonstrate that they have plans in place to accommodate the extra capacity that will be generated by the sites that we identify in the local plan.
Councillor Woodywith, are you proposing an amendment to the motion? No. Councillor Page?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor James, for that motion. I personally do agree in a way with Councillor King that well, I know it's a Liberal motion, and I do agree that we probably should focus more on the district. However, I think this motion is very laudable because at the end of the day, we all have a responsibility. And if it's just down to Councillor Knowles to write, and, you know, I think we've discharged our duty to do something for the environment and see what's happening. I do know that from my county side and being scrutiny there, that we have tried many, many times to get Severn Trent and the water authorities, and it took us years to get them to come out and play ball. But yeah, I don't think they will come out and give us, you know, a great answer or stand to account. However, to make a stand as a council, to write a letter, I can fully support that.
Thank you, Ed. Oh, Councillor Wellbourn.
Thank you very much. I agree with Councillor King. This authorities have responsibility to doing things, but having said that, what this motion is asking for is additional information, and I don't really have a problem with that. just what you do next, what do you with that information, what can this authority do? I'm not sure a terrible lot, but I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. And councillor Bannister.
Just by way of information, thank you, Madam Chairman. Ofwat did call on the water companies to act in releasing as much data as possible. They issued that request in June of this year, and they gave the water companies until October to respond, and they also are developing ways of increasing their powers in order to enforce that activity. So what Councillor James is asking for, to some extent, has already been put in play by Ofwat in June. I support the motion, but by way of information, I'm just indicating that the work is already being done by Ofwat, and they are developing some more teeth in order to ensure that there is that compliance. And I'm sure that additional work that Ofwat has put in hand since June will be referenced in any response that you get to the letters that this motion is asking to be sent. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Salpas.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say that I support this motion. Think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more to speak? No? Okay. So I'll read out the wording of the motion. That is, we instruct the Leader of the Council, Councillor Knowles, to write to the Secretary of State, the Prime Minister, with copies to each of the Members of Parliament for Harborough District, informing them of the decision of this Council and the notice of motion, urging swift action and an urgent reply. We believe time is not on our side and there is no planet B. Can you please raise your hand when voting and keep it up until we finish counting? All those in favour? And anyone against? Abstentions? 1. Thank you very much. The motion is carried. Oh, that's the second. Yeah. The second motion, single member ward boundary review, and that's proposed by Councillor King. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So look, this is, I hope, a very self-explanatory motion, which hopefully, I'm not going to go through every line of this. Essentially, this is a carry forward from the previous Boundary Commission review, Local Government Boundary Commission of England review as Harborough District that was carried out in 16-17. There were two things that we were trying to do there. One, which was to reduce the number of councillors, and then there was also a preference for single member wards. And unfortunately, the outcome of that review was that the number of single member wards actually went down, as well as the number of councillors. And I think having had a conversation with the representatives of Local Government Boundary Commission of England at the LGA conference, they indicated the only basis for a further review for foreseeable future in Harborough District will be on the basis of the council seeking a single member ward review, i.e. to have one councillor per ward. I mean, this could mean there's more councillors, not any less, but I do think that this has some merit, and it does then ensure that instead of having these super large 3-member wards, and I happen to represent one of those, as I know other colleagues here as well, it's very difficult sometimes for residents and community organisations to know which councillor they go and speak to. Also, I mean, obviously at the moment, all the 3-member wards are actually all of one party, so that's kind of helpful in some respects. But when previously it hasn't been, it's actually quite difficult for residents and other stakeholders to then know which person do they go and talk to. about issues in that particular ward, and they are very big wards as well. So the motion's, as I say, straightforward. That this council authorises the appropriate officer to contact the local LGBCE, which is the Local Government Boundary Commission for England, to seek inclusion to their latest work programme for a single member review of the warding arrangements for Harbour District Council, and that B, the subject to A being successful, which is that the LGBCE agree to us being put on the work programme, that there would that a politically balanced review panel of the council be constituted to then take matters forward. And that's it really, Chair. I think that's all I wanted to say about it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wellbound, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to second. I won't repeat everything Councillor King has said, but I do support it. And I think it's important that we do try and get this one member award arrangement, because I think it is simpler for both the electorate and also the member to operate with. It's a simpler system. It also means that members are accountable for a smaller electorate in a smaller area, which I think is important. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Okay, open to members. Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I have to say I won't be supporting this. I haven't been overrun with members saying to me, please, can we vote for this? I don't think there's any appetite at the moment. I think we've got more than enough on COVID to the council. Certainly our officers have. So I'll certainly not be voting for this now. I hope members will vote against it. I'm not saying that it's not something we can look at in the future. Probably it is. But at this moment in time, I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you. When it was prior 1919 when we asked for this, and I think we had all different expectations, and then we ended up with this. So I don't know, even if we were to put it onto the Boundary Commission's agenda, well, what we would end up with, because at the end of the day, they come out with their own, they have their own agenda. I do believe that it is very, very valuable to just look at it, because that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make it a one member ward all through. But for instance, after the last, we ended up in my county councillor division with Lutterworth East and Lutterworth West. The name was just grabbed out of a hat, and it has created an awful lot of confusion, because somebody just sat there and decided it sounded good. I think, Councillor Knowles, this authority, whether officers it will add to them, I don't quite agree with, because our officers will have to do a boundary review anyway, because if you remember, we sat on, we have to do it every so many years when there is there is a certain requirement. So I think, it would be quite nice to add that on there. I think it makes sense. And after all, for us to have 3 members in a different ward, it's so confusing. And I just think it is something worthwhile to look at.
Thank you. Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Chairman. We won't be supporting this, principally because of the comments of the leader that the council has a very big in tray at the moment. There's lots of things underway, contracts, projects, etc. But I was really astonished when I saw Councillor King's motion, and I'd like to tell the council a bit of a story as to why we are in the situation that we are, why certain changes were made. The last time, we have only been operating on the current boundaries for 4 years. I don't know if Councillor King's previous 12 have made you a little tired of those arrangements, but obviously you want to seek change, and give anyone credit who looks to potential change. That is interesting. However, the last boundary review that took place was looked at by a committee of which the majority of members were Conservatives. Some members here may have been on it. And this committee did some work and a submission was made to the Boundary Commission. Sorry, I forgot one piece of evidence. The Boundary Commission often has to intervene when certain trigger points are exceeded. And I can't remember the exact phrase, I don't know if anyone in this room does, but it's something like 30% of wards, which I think for us at the time was 11, go over a threshold where the number of voters are more than 10% adrift from the average. Anyway, you get the picture. There's a significant threshold, and as the years progress, you get closer towards the number, and I think we got to a point where 11 were reached, or the letter that went in from the council assisted the process. Well, what did the committee propose? What did the council propose? Because the Boundary Commission doesn't just reward, they don't spend extra time doing the work. They say to the relevant council, you know your area, you know your wards, you know your villages and boundaries, etc. Why don't you propose an amended solution? Here's the criteria, here are the thresholds, here are the rules you need to meet. Propose it and come up with something that works for you. Well, that wasn't done. I rang the manager at the Boundary Commission for England, who received Harbour District Council's proposals, and he said the principal part of the proposal was you were claiming exceptional circumstances, because there is a phrase in the rewarding arrangements that if there are exceptional circumstances, in other words, it's very unfair to cut every single town or village in half in a district, maybe claim exceptional circumstances and just get something a little bit different. I mean, it might be similar to the Isle of Wight, which is a very large parliamentary constituency in the Parliament. And I said, well, give me some examples. And he said, and these words are ingrained into my memory, you've breached 8 out of 11 rules. Your proposal breaches 8 out of 11 rules. We will be having to legally intervene again in a few years. You've not come up with a solution, we're going to have to do it. And they did. And they merged single member wards in Broughton Astley from 4 single member wards to become 2 2-member wards, 4 single member wards in Lutterworth to become 2 2-member wards. The village of Lear was added to Broughton Astley South because the numbers didn't work otherwise. And I was furious. I contacted the Conservative leader at the time, Councillor Payne, and informed him of my conversation. And Councillor Payne's considered response a short time later is something like, well, the officers reassure me that it's the Boundary Commission's fault, not the council. But I wanted to share that story as to how the previous administration had got this situation of merging all these wards. And I mean, Councillor King, you've been operating 16 years now as a councillor in the Kidworth as a 3-member ward, and you've done a lot of work. Thank you very much, Chairman. But I wanted to share that with you. I'm sure at some point we will have to do this again. We ought to get an idea from the electoral registration officer of how we're doing. Not now, but there's too much on our plate now. I don't think it's important. I don't agree with all of Councillor King's bullet points about electoral equality, because you can't make one ward out of Turlangton or another single member ward out of Westwood and Starmore or something like that. Community identity and interest, no, the arguments here are not strong enough. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to understand actually what a possible outcome there would be, and what outcome are we seeking with this motion? I'm just trying to better understand it really. And the 3 points of electoral equity, convenient and effective local government, and community identity and interests. So we were 37 councillors before, we are 34 now. So what outcome are we looking for here? We're looking for more councillors again? I'm not sure. If Councillor King could help me a bit there, then I would appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm very happy to come back on that, Chair, and thanks Councillor James and Councillor Grace for going down memory lane there, and I do remember it very well. So the situation is that there was a conversation with the Boundary Commission officials at the LGA conference back in July, and what they said is looking at the harbour numbers, and they've got the numbers and they popped it up on screen and said, oh, you should be able to access this, which of course I can't. And they said, looking at this, it'll be a long time before we do another review of the Harbour District. I said, well, what's a long time? They said, oh, probably a decade more before they'll come back, need to come back round and review things. And I sat there and I thought, well, okay, that we could do that. But equally, as you all know from before, the only opportunity you get is at the beginning of each 4-year cycle, because we're a 4-year cycle council, to get this review done. If we don't get it done now, then basically we can't look at this for another 4 years, because the Electoral Commission, Boundary Commission Local Government only looks at this in a 4-year cycle. So the only way you can get a review of this done is actually to do this now. And the only way we could get one done, if we did want one done, of course, is to go for the single, request a single member warding arrangements. It doesn't mean that would be the outcome, answering Councillor James's point. The point is I was making is earlier was there are a number of wards, and Councillor Graves mentioned them, which were merged together back in 2016-17, which was first elections in 2019. And those communities, I'm aware, there's a sense they've lost their identity a bit by those wards being merged together. And, you know, my own experience, and thank you, Councillor Graves, again, for reminding me, it's 16 years I've been a councillor in Kibworth, and yeah, it has been at times quite tricky because you're covering a very large area and sometimes residents and businesses don't know which councillor to contact. Sometimes they can't contact all three, sometimes they just deal with one. It varies quite a bit.
I think you've answered.
But that's the reason why I brought this motion forward, to try and see if the council wanted to engage in that. I hear what the leader said, and obviously I assume it won't get through.
Thank
We'll
you.
give it a go. Thank you.
Councillor Bannister.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know that all councillors around this table are accountable to their residents. They're visible in their wards and are transparent in the efforts that they do. But Councillor King has alluded to it, as has Councillor Page, that on occasions in multi-ward, multi-member wards, there can be a degree of confusion. And as a member as a councillor in a single member ward, I know that the accountability, the transparency, the visibility is a degree greater than from what I hear in respect of my colleagues. So why are we doing this, Councillor James? We're doing it for greater democracy, to better the understanding of the way in which our residents are governed, which can only be a good thing. And Councillor King makes the very valid point that if we're not doing it now, we have to wait another 4 years. And so we lose the opportunity to bring greater transparency, visibility and accountability to the residents of this district. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Starfuss.
We've only recently had boundary changes, especially in Lutterworth Ward, and really we should allow the Boundary Commission, who've made those decisions as an independent, unpolitical body, to make those decisions. And we've only recently had changes, and we shouldn't have changes for political reasons. We should have it as an independent body that make decisions that are impartial to any parties.
Thank you, Councillor Starfuss. Anyone else to speak? No, that's everything. So, okay, I'll read the wording of the motion. That this council authorises the appropriate officer to contact the Local Government Boundary Commission for England to seek inclusion into their latest work programme for a single member review of the warding arrangements for Harbour District Council. B, that subject to A being successful, namely HDC being accepted onto the LGBCE programme for a single member review, that a politically balanced review panel of this council be constituted. Okay, so there's the motion. Would you like to show your hand, a show of hands for accepting this? Okay, and those against? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, well, the motion has been carried.
No.
Oh, sorry. No, it's against. It's against, yes. Sorry, lost. Yeah, sorry. The motion is lost. I put the figures down, but got them in the wrong order. Apologies. Yes, so that's it. That's the end of business today, councillors. So thank you for the meeting. Thank you for your patience. Good night.